How's it going, friends and family of the internet? Welcome to the Real AF TV podcast, the show about fishing and random takes from the land of 10,000 lakes. I'm one of your hosts, Josh LaBaw. On the other side,
I am Tim Wagner. What's going on, Josh?
hey, Tim. We are in May, which officially kicks off open water fishing season. In my opinion, the guy that doesn't know that much about fishing. Am I wrong?
Well, it's like we're coming up on fishing openers, so it's the majority of Minnesota is like this is when we're getting close. Everybody's
This is when
ready.
it happens.
Yep. There's a lot of
Right.
people that are like, it's time to fish panfish as soon as the ice opens up. But
Right, right.
So
There's also people that stay out on the ice until it's fucking see-through, and
right.
that's crazy as shit. So
Yeah, people falling through the ice all the time when it's like they're just like, you gotta not drive trucks on there anymore. And there's always some redneck that's just like, I'll tell you when I fucking gonna get off the ice, boy. And then they gotta go pull him out of the water because he fell through the ice.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
So
happens every year.
and you always see it on the fucking evening news too. It always makes the news. It's the middle of April, and they're like, "Well, on Lake Minnetonka, they had to pull out an F-350," and
they're always so nice about it too.
Fuck?
Yeah, they're always so nice about it too. They're just like, somebody fell through, so make sure that you're being safe out there because there are thin spots. They should just be like, another person fell through the ice, obviously.
It's been 63 for the past 4 days straight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a typical Real AF TV podcast, fishing in the front, random take in the back. So for part one, we're doing a fishing Q&A. The internet has a lot of questions, and the more time you spend on the fishing internet, you go, shit, we should talk about that. There's a lot of questions out there that you could just talk about it. It's good. And it's just like nobody's really answering them that well on forums or like Twitter. Too much troll. Like it gets weird sometimes. And I'm not saying fishing internet's bad, but sometimes it's the internet,
I see. Yeah. Cause I see some questions, like I see people answering them well sometimes, but you also have a lot of like super biased opinions out there that are just ridiculous. Like people asking just like, what do you think I should get for a rod and reel? And then somebody will hop on and be like, nothing Abu Garcia. Don't touch the shit. You're just like, I have plenty of Abu Garcia stuff. Just because you didn't use your reel right once and thought that it was garbage because you messed it up. Like, and it's just so dumb. People just want opinions. And, obviously that guy gave you an opinion on one that sucked or whatever. But somebody just wants to be like, what do I need to get started? And somebody's just like, fuck this company. And you're just like, that's not what I asked.
That's right. Exactly. Plus, so we're going to try to answer questions in not that fashion.
Right. And plus, like, we just kind of figured if people are asking these questions, they can't be the only ones. It's the same thing with everything I do. Like, I'm just like, there's no way I'm the only one that thinks this stuff. There's no way we're the only people doing these things. It's like, well, there's got to be other people that are sitting at home going like, yeah. And plus, if you found this podcast, maybe you got some questions. So, here we are.
That's what Real AF TV was founded on, is learning fishing.
I like to help.
Not making it suck.
Yeah, we don't want to make it suck unless you want it to suck. That was weird.
We just don't want it to be boring, and that's why we're here. We're trying to mix a little humor in there. It makes you learn better. And then in the second half, we are going to keep it video games all month long on May, but we're going to keep it video games the month of May, but that's for housekeeping, which we'll get to here in just a second. And our second half is going to be video games. We're going to do Resident Evil.
Oh, yeah.
Give me your best Resident Evil, Tim. Come on.
What are you buying?
I didn't even play that one, but I know what you
Resident
just did.
Evil 4 is my favorite one. That guy that you just the one in the he's like a market dude. Gosh dang it, like a vendor.
He is the market.
There's a different word that is just, what are you selling? He goes higher at the end. Sorry, I'll try it again. What are you selling? Nah, that was too high. Fuck it. It's close enough.
It's good. It's really good. But we're going to talk about Resident Evil. Well, of course, we got to talk about the game. Resident Evil 8
Yes.
just came out. Like,
Yep.
it literally comes out the Friday before the Monday that this podcast launches. So it's on the market, is what I'm saying. And but we're not gonna dwell on. Let's get into some housekeeping. I'm just gonna cut off there and go. We're on Patreon, dude.
Yes.
We are officially on Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, it is like a subscription, basically. So you can subscribe to Real AF TV, give us a little bit of money a month. There are tiers that we have set up, and you get benefits based on those tiers, based on the amount of money that you give us. And here's the thing, you control it, right? You give us $50 this month and then walk away from it next month. Doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to do. You're in control.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/RealAFTV. That's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, don't just be like, I have to give you $50. No, you don't have to do nothing. This podcast is free. You can keep listening to it for free too. But with your support, we can get things done, and that would be much appreciated. I maybe don't have to sit in the corner of my basement. maybe we can make podcasting together happen more often. There's things that we can do with your help, and it would be much appreciated. And if you don't want to do it, then I know where some of you live. That's all I'm gonna say.
But yes, thank you for mentioning the fact that the podcast is going to remain free. I mean, we're still on all of the platforms. We're still going to be launching it on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes and all of that stuff. The podcast isn't going anywhere for free. We're sticking there. Don't worry about that.
Yes.
Podcast ain't going anywhere. We are asking for your support on patreon.com/RealAFTV, ReelAFTV. So we can do more with our ideas, because right now we have ideas. I mean, we have a whole Slack channel of ideas and it's just overflowing.
Yeah.
We just don't have the time, and time is money. That's really what it boils down to. I mean, time is money. That's an honest statement.
Right. And funds that you guys help us out with are funds our wives can't try to tell us what to do with. So that helps too. It makes it easier to spend money on stuff for the podcast and the YouTube channel and all the other social media outlets and whatnot. And, maybe I'll get a fancier cup.
Other than Spider-Man 2 Homecoming cup.
No, that's not what we would be spending the money on. But I just realized, this is only the second time we've done this on the video, and I didn't realize until just now that it completely covers up my face every time I take a sip, and it looks like such garbage. But I'm thirsty, and I need to have water to be able to talk well. So I apologize. Hydrated. Next time I'll work on a better cup, but I'm not going to walk away and try to find one now. So it is what it is for this time.
That is great. Actually, you can go to patreon.com/RealAFTV right now, sign up, and at any tier, doesn't matter, and you will get the pilot podcast that will not be released anywhere else. It's a Patreon exclusive. It was the first time we recorded this on video. We did the podcast on video. So there it is. Eventually, down the road, we are, just so you know, we are going to go with video podcasts on the YouTube channel. It is going to happen, and we'll continue to release the audio on all the other outlets. But, a little incentive to go drop us $1 on Patreon and see that pilot video. So
yeah,
I don't know why I kind of chuckled at it. It's not like it turned out bad. I mean, we did pretty good, but we're learning the equipment and stuff, so we're not ready to go public with it.
Obviously. We're learning things.
Exactly.
I mean, I got a handsome glass of booze over here, but that's not gonna help.
That just looks good.
That's not gonna help the hydration. So
so you gotta have the water. Also, we put up a $250 a month goal. If you guys get us up to $250 a month, we will do a half Christmas special. Tim, what's half Christmas? Let the people know.
Christmas is in between Christmas Well,
in the beginning of
Christmases,
the
I
year,
suppose, because you have Christmas and then the next Christmas. It's in between
in between
Christmases, because
Christmases.
because you got the Christmas from last year, and the Christmas from your coming year,
Right.
and then right in
Boom.
between
Half
is
Christmas.
what is it? June 25th is Christmas, half Christmas. Is that
Yeah,
what it
it's like
is?
June 25th or 26th. I don't really get how that works because I don't understand dates and also don't
Yeah,
understand how leap years work. Although this isn't a leap year. It's not the point. The point is we'll do a half Christmas special if you can get us
half
up to 250 a month.
Christmas.
If we fall short of that come June, then we'll change the goal. But that's just something, guys, help us out and share the Patreon. Get us up there because our Christmas special, if you ask me, is on YouTube and it was a banger. I loved it. A lot of
It was
production. It was
fun.
fun.
It was fun. Yep.
So let's get into it. Let's podcast. Let's podcast about fishing. Let's do what we
Yeah.
all came here for. Okay. We came here to podcast. We didn't come here just for the fishing, but fishing Q&A. Let's hit it with this one right away because we're in that period of time where it's not bass fishing time. It's not sport fishing time, I guess. I'll pull that word out from learning that from podcasts prior. But when the water's open, and the docks are all in now, and you kind of and the bass masters, going hard, it's just like I could feel like I'm getting the itch to go bass fish even. And yeah, yeah, you feel it. We got but that could be a problem here in Minnesota. Season's not open, blah, blah, blah. A friend informed me, this is the question. A friend informed me it is illegal to use a crankbait out of season. Now, that is something that relates directly to, hey, bass ain't in season. Can you throw a crank?
Right. The answer is yes. I also wanted to say real quick that just these questions are real questions from people, but we're not going to divulge anybody's names or anything because
Yep.
we don't know if they want us to. So we're
Right.
just going to ask their question. So
Yeah.
if you listen to the podcast and you hear your question, you're just like, why didn't they give us credit? Because I don't know who you fucking are.
Because these are just gathered from across fishing internet and,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
anonymous.
But if you do listen and you hear your question, you're just like, hey, that was awesome. Let us know. We'll give you a shout out.
Hell yeah.
You gave us some content. I'll definitely be like, yeah, that, these people said it. But anyways, yes. Is it illegal? No, it is not illegal. It is illegal to target fish out of season. So if you went with the intention of trying to catch a bass or a walleye or whatever it happens to be, that is illegal. So part of it is kind of convincing the DNR officer, which is what we have in Minnesota. We learned in one of the other podcasts that they're not DNR in every state. So
Right.
whatever your
Conservation
wild,
officer.
yes, conservation confrontation
officer.
confrontation cop. I don't know. Whatever your conservation officer is called, like, you got to know what you're trying to do, because it shouldn't be like you're trying to pull a fast one. The seasons are there for a reason, so
Right.
don't learn the rules to try to pull a fast one on one and just be like, hey, I told him I was totally going for white bass when I was going for walleye. Yeah. Just like, I mean, that would work, but don't do that,
Right.
So, but like, I used white bass as an example there because like white bass and crappie, there are smaller crankbaits, like rattle trap is famous. God, I can't remember his name. Is it Bill Lewis? It's like the original rattle trap. You can find them everywhere. They're just a lipless crankbait that vibrates real fast, and they make a mini version of that for like crappies, and white bass are they're panfish, and they're in that same kind of category. They got big mouths, so those fish will try to hit something a little bit bigger than a sunfish, and
Sure.
they make crappie-sized crankbaits. There's a bunch of different stuff, or a bunch of different manufacturers that make crankbaits out there for crappies and stuff. So you can use crankbaits, but then it just comes into like a size thing, you know, like if you're using, I think I said it on one of the other episodes, you know, if you're using like a walleye tail dancer where the bait is that long and then you got a bill that long and you're getting it to dive, I mean, you wouldn't be fishing something that's diving that deep this time of year
Yeah.
anyways.
For the audio listeners, how long are you talking there?
Oh yes, yes. I'm talking. We're learning.
We're learning.
Like a 5 inch long bait would be something that you're definitely
Mhm.
not gonna convince anybody that you're throwing for crappie. You know,
Right.
you're just like, yeah, but I always throw baits half the fish's size every time. When I go fishing for muskie, 2-footer every
Two
time, and that.
200.
And that's only because that's the biggest one I can handle throwing. I'd be throwing a 3-footer if I could figure out a way to launch that thing, but I get so damn tired. But no, it's totally legal to throw crankbaits, but it's that whole targeting thing. Just make sure that you know what you're going for and know the seasons that you're going for, because there are some weird rules like bass you can fish for on fishing opener, but you can't keep them for another 2 weeks. So there are rules where you're allowed to target them, but you can't actually keep them. So just
Sure.
know that stuff. Just, you know, when in doubt, look in the DNR stuff. And you can get PDF files of the whole guide on your phone. Like download it instantly. Bam, you have it.
Yep.
So
good point. Good point. I really liked that you said you can catch fish. So like you can go bass fishing during walleye opener. You just can't keep the bass. And so when you're downloading your regs when you're downloading your local regs, because that's in Minnesota, you know, I don't know how widespread that is across the United States, but like those are the sort of things that you really gotta train yourself on, you know, or you gotta like, that's why this is what I want to say is that's why we always talk about, hey, ask somebody, listen to the Real AF TV podcast, like get a person who knows what they're doing to get you started. It's just going to make things easier and faster, because even that little tip right there, what you said, Tim, is enough to make someone like me who's still learning go, all right, when I get the regs, I need to read about bass, like do a control F, look up the word bass, and every time it hits, read everything there is to read. Like we did that in our in the last episode, on episode 20, when we did the whole front half about crappies. We went through several things like that, and how it's different on the borders and of our state and stuff like that. It's just, don't read up, right?
Yeah.
Fish educated, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is like, don't go out there just willy-nilly. Anyways, we got a load of questions, and let's talk about a boat. Let's talk about boats right quick. We're not going to do a ton of it, but like I just saw this question and I thought,
let's talk about it.
let's talk. How do I not even do my Minnesota accent? What the fuck? I just blew it.
You turned like English. Let's talk about it.
Talk about it. Anyways, let's talk about boats quick. Can I use lower unit oil in my outboard?
Yeah, that one.
I was just like, wait, in an outboard, that's the kind. So I think I can describe the engine type. Correctly. An outboard motor is the kind that hangs off the back of your boat. It's basically completely exposed. The engine is completely exposed. It just hangs off the back of the boat. Then you would have an inboard, which you see on most sporting boats. Recreational boats is what I would call them, I guess. Like speedboats is the old term that you learn as a kid, where no engine visible whatsoever. It's usually just a giant compartment in the back that you sit on and drink beer while your buddy's wakeboarding out the back.
Yeah, most people, there's like runabouts and there's wakeboard boats and stuff like that. Yeah, so you're definitely nailing it. And some of them have jet engines, like a jet ski too. So
like a jet ski with a bigger engine.
Yeah, right.
Same propulsion method?
Yeah, same shit. Yep.
Right. So yeah. So what does this even mean to use lower unit oil in an outboard motor?
Okay. So a lower unit, basically think of it like this. An outboard motor is the transmission and the motor in one piece, because
Ah,
you have the motor up here, like on the top, and then that shaft that goes down to the prop is basically the transmission. So that's where all the gearages and all that stuff. And
sure.
the lower unit is where all the gears are. And the lower unit, it's completely different oil.
Oh,
That's like gear lubrication on the bottom, and
yeah. I
then
was
on
gonna
the
say it's the
top,
same concept in a car when you think about it, right? Like
yeah,
there's engine oil, and then your
there's
transmission has
yeah,
transmission fluid.
right. It'd be the
Okay.
same. Yeah, it's like the same idea. So it's like,
Okay.
no, you can't put transmission fluid in your engine. So so
Right.
like I'm not trying to be like no, but like when I saw it, I'm like, oh shit, people don't know this. Like
Right.
you need to know that, because you, I guess, I don't know how bad it'll screw up your engine, but it's not made for it. And just
Right.
find the specifications. Like she had an older motor, the lady that was
Mm.
asking,
Yep.
and like just check it out, figure out what it is. Like you can find that stuff. I don't I would assume that you can find it just like you can find it with oil for any other stuff, like where
Mhm.
the oil filters and stuff
Mhm.
go into, Fleet Farm, and they have that book. I don't know if they have a book like that for
Right.
boats, but online you can definitely find something, and they have their own specifications. Like I
Yep.
think Evan Rude takes, like, Quicksilver is the brand or whatever, and it's like
Sure.
there's like specific oils made for your engine, but for
Mhm.
sure lower oil unit is not. That's like gear lube. It's completely different. So
Yeah. Yeah. For
yeah,
sure. Yep. Yeah, that makes I mean, hopefully people get the references to cars, but I mean, I think most people have a vehicle or have ridden in there's it's a lot easier I think to relate to, and maybe not in a fishing podcast audience.
yeah. Well,
But
I would think that if you have a boat, you have a vehicle.
right.
Like that'd be pretty weird to have a boat with no cars.
Yeah, but also to the people that don't really have the boats, like hopefully come in here and
Right, right.
learning something. But the car, like the car reference, I just think is more. There's more boats. No, there's more cars on the road than there are boats in the water. So
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
when you're talking about this kind of boat, so yeah, that makes a really you make a really good point there. Now this next question, we did a whole podcast on the history of the fishing rod.
Hmm.
We went into some good detail, and we've talked a lot. In only 21 episodes, we've talked a lot about slip bobbers. I feel maybe it's only a couple times, but I feel like we've had a lot of good conversations about it. So when I
Yeah.
saw this one, I was like, "Huh, yeah." So I'll read the question, and then we'll get into it. I was curious about purchasing a new rod. Can you use a micro guide rod effectively for slip bobber fishing?
So the answer is probably. You probably could if
Mm-hmm.
you really needed to, but I wouldn't. I
Mm-hmm.
have used it, like I have been out fishing where all of a sudden, like, given what was going on and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that there was fish there and couldn't get in a bite, I was like, maybe a slip bobber would work. So I have tried it with a
Mm-hmm.
micro guide. And one thing I didn't think about until I actually used it is the micro guides are so small, because basically a micro guide is just, or like other people refer to them as eyes, the eyelets or whatever.
Yep.
They're
And
where
that's
the
actually what made me think about our
yeah
podcast about the fishing rod. Is like we
yeah
go into the parts in that episode. So if you're looking for it,
yep yep, check it out. We explain it well there. But
yep.
the line, that's where the line goes through, and the micro guides are just like what it sounds. They're tiny.
Yeah.
So a bobber stop when you're slip bobber fishing is basically just a knot that stops the line from going through your bobber. And when you're reeling it up, it'll get snagged on those, especially when you're fighting a fish. Like the pressure
Oh
of
yeah.
the fish pulling it, when the line hits the
Yeah.
bobber stop hits those micro guides, it'll move the bobber stop. So a lot
Yeah.
of times fighting the fish isn't a big deal, but every time you get the fish in, now you're resetting your line and trying to get the depth right and everything. And
Right.
you just caught a fish. You were in the right spot. Now you got to try to get it to right where you had it again. And
Right. Right.
that makes it tough. And trust me, like, you don't have to have a micro guide for bobber fishing. So I guess if you're hard up and it's the only rod you have and you want to use it for other stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then like sometimes bobber fish, I think you can get away with it. But I think I would rather just go with a better rod that doesn't have micro guides, because the blank does a lot of it for you as far as sensitivity goes. So you can get a good rod that you can fish other stuff with besides bobbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then without the micro guides, it gives you that option to use bobber fishing. But if you were just looking to use it as like a bobber fishing rod, that's pointless. The micro guides the micro guides give you more sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need extra sensitivity to watch a bobber go under the water. It's just pointless. So
right. Yeah. The bobber's gonna go under. It's already as sensitive as its buoyancy. Like,
yep.
that's all there is to it. So in
Yeah.
this case, it's like, I'm curious of buying a new rod. Would my just it sounds to me like the question is being asked, what kind of rod do I get to go slip bobber fishing? I've heard about these micro guides, and I guess slip bobbers I'm probably going to be pan fishing, so sensitivity is probably a thing. It's just like that is not the
Right.
case. They're not related in this
Nope.
question.
Not at all. When you're bobber fishing, like if you want to like upgrade your bobber fishing capabilities, I don't know, like get brighter colored bobbers so you can see them better, so you know when they go under.
Get them glow in the dark ones that have that work at night and
Yep,
go out at night.
I got them, man. I got a couple. Thill makes glow in the dark ones, and then there's Thill and a couple of different companies that actually make like little lights that go in your bobber, so they're like legitimately illuminated, not just glow in the dark.
Oh, nice.
But
Like an LED. I would assume an LED at this point. I don't know.
oh yeah,
But
yeah, they've
yeah.
been an LED diode for a long time because they were so tiny.
Right. Yeah.
They just used to
Yep.
cost a lot more money.
Right. Yeah. LEDs have come down significantly in price in the last 10 years.
Crazy.
All right. Next one. Let's see. Looking for a good rod and reel for casting lures and live bait. I love your note on this. I'm gonna break through the production, and I'm just gonna say I love your note. It's like that's not a question,
Right.
but I still have an answer for it.
Yeah, that's what I put in there, because it's like it's not a question, but I'll answer it for you.
I'm looking for a good rod and reel.
Aren't we all?
I think that's half of fishing.
Right. So, but no, looking for a good one to spinning reel and rod is what you should be looking at. Don't
For both, for the combo of throwing lures and throwing live bait.
Yes, live.
Yeah.
I think the live bait would be harder to throw, but also with a question like that, I'm just gonna assume you're a beginner. Like, no offense,
Sure.
but like it's just so vague that you're just like, yeah, you should probably go with spinning because that's gonna help you out.
Just because the spinning, when we've talked a little bit about it, but the spinning is just easier to get a hold of. Get your mind. It's easier to use. It's an easier tool to use, I guess.
Right.
Than other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Than other reels is what I'm trying to say. It's the. I don't want to call it a beginner reel, right?
Right. No, it's not a beginner reel because it does take some skill. Like, you have to open the bail and like hold the line with your finger and stuff. Like, you have to learn what you're doing, but it's a lot easier because the bait caster is so much more to it, where if you don't stop the line from coming out, then you just fucked up your whole day. So
I actually saw a guy who I just saw a video on social media. He threw it and it backlashed so bad that the whole rod just flew out of his hands into the water.
Really? I've
Yeah,
seen
like
so
it
that
just snagged, it just ratted up and it had so much momentum. It whoop.
yeah, that was probably like he must have had like some stronger braid or whatever. I've had that happen before with uh bigger musky lures, and I
Mhm.
spazzed out so hard on one of them. I had a Live Target is a company that makes really realistic looking baits, and I had a big Live Target perch, and I was casting, and I had an older Abu Garcia reel, and like I tell you that because they have these old they're like shaped almost like a pop can,
Okay.
and that was my first musky reel, and it's not even really quite a musky reel,
Okay.
but like that's what I was using it for.
Mhm.
And I casted and I backlashed and it caught and the line snapped. Like if the line wouldn't have snapped, it
Oh,
probably would have been able to pull, but because of
sure.
the force, plus also hold on to your rod tight. You never know what's gonna happen. Like you can't just cast and like hope that nothing pulls on it. But
Yeah.
that thing snapped and that lure was like $30. So it like is like zzz, and it snaps and it's just like
Fuck.
$30.
$30 just
It
flying through
just
the
go,
air.
and I was like slapping the rod on the water and stuff, and then there was another boat next to me and I didn't even like notice him. I might have saw him, but I'm just like, God damn it! I'm like hitting the water with the rod because I'm like, not only did I lose this lure, but I have to like retie everything. I had a leader on because I'm fishing for muskies, so I got to go find a new leader and like all this shit. And like in that moment, I'm just like, I have work to do now. I just want to fish, and like I look up and the guys are like staring at me, and I'm just like, lost a musky lure, and they're both just like, yeah, we get it, and then they just keep going.
Like, I
Yeah,
got it.
but to
So,
answer the question,
yeah, back to the question.
yes. So what I'm guessing is that you're kind of just looking for like a good all-around rod and reel setup, and I personally don't think that there is one rod and reel that'll do every job that you want.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to go a lot, then get one that's a good middle ground. What I'm suggesting is like a Fluger President combo is a great place to start. Um, that's a two-piece rod for most of them, I
Mhm.
believe. So that's
Mhm.
kind of up to you. You know, like if you want a one piece, 10 more bucks will get you like a one piece with something that's super high
Mhm.
quality too. Like I know it's kind of a horse a piece.
Okay.
uh, like there's a Fenwick um, Night Hawk, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
It's a nice rod, and then it has a Fluger reel on it. That's not quite the Fluger President, and I think that's like
Oh.
$100, and that's a one piece rod. And then there's
And you just buy
also,
this combo just like already put together
yep,
sitting on the
already put
shelf.
together. Yep.
Nice.
That's why I'm throwing this out there because I think it just makes it easier for you when you're a beginner to like not try to be. I see so much of that stuff too. People are like, "What do you think I should get?" And somebody's like, "I would get this $150 rod with this $150 reel," and you're just like, "Yeah, okay. I don't think that they're at that level yet. So how about you chill
Right.
on go spend $300?" So,
Right.
but like there's that Nighthawk one, and I might be getting it wrong, but it's something real close to that. I believe it's Nighthawk. And then there's the Fluger President. The President reel is phenomenal. That reel is sells for like $60 by itself. You can get the combo for
Yeah.
$85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like you and that differs too a little bit depending on what rod and reel setup you go with. Like the
Sure. Of course.
smaller microlight is cheaper. Obviously, smaller stuff just costs less to produce. So
Right.
less materials, less money,
Yep.
for the most part. But
Yep.
and that like I would say like a 7 foot medium, and then a fast action if they have that. If not, like a medium light somewhere in there. On the reel or on the rod, it will tell you like what weights it's suggested to be able to throw, like by the ounce. So
Hmm.
keep that in mind too when you're talking about like what, to throw lures and live
Yeah.
bait. Like, I don't know what you're throwing, so just like look at on the box of your lures. It'll
Yep.
tell you the weight. It'll tell you how
Yep.
many ounces that lure is.
Very
So
good. Yeah.
just make sure that you have a rod that can handle what you're throwing. But
Right.
also, that's where I say to start. So get yourself like a 7 foot medium, and then try to keep in mind of when you're fishing. If you find stuff that, like, for this lure, it'd be really nice if this thing would be
Mm.
different.
Mm.
You
Okay.
can make that happen. That's why there's so many lures and that's why there's so many rods and reels, because
Right.
there
Right.
is
Right.
stuff to hone in on every single thing where you're just like, and I think that's where you get people that are just like, fuck Abu Garcia. It's because you didn't have the right rod and reel for what you were trying to do, and it didn't go to
Right.
your liking.
Yeah. Right.
So
For sure. For
you
sure.
just gotta tweak it, you know. Go to Fleet
Yeah. Yeah.
Farm and
Definitely.
walk through, and you'll see just tents of rods and reels for
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
and
Basically,
it's
your local shop, whether it be a local, a big sports store, or whether it just be your local tackle shop, is like you should pretty much see tents
yeah,
of rods. And even though they all, to the layman walking by, look the same, you when you go in there, it's just a whole row of this white, nighthawk. I'll just use whatever, you know.
yeah,
But as you walk down, it's like, oh, that one's 6'5", and that one's 6'7", and that one's 7'2", and then they have their
mm-hmm,
different actions that you've talked about before. And
yep,
yeah, it gets crazy. And actually, to bring it back to another podcast, is episode 10. We talked about a beginner tackle box and the cost of a hobby in the same episode, which of course has
mm-hmm,
tons of overlap, at fishing being one of your biggest hobbies. And it really goes to what you're saying is, don't overdo it. Don't listen to, like we said at the beginning, that it can get really blurry on the internet. There can be the like trollier, like cocky types. Go get this $150 reel and this $300,
right,
rod reel setup. You're going to be the best ever. It's just like, no, 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 no. The cost of a hobby is something you really need to take into consideration. It's just not. It's just not necessary. Don't be that guy. Don't be the
right,
first time throwing nothing. First time throwing artificial bait. Here we go.
right.
$300 goes in the fucking lake.
Yeah, yeah, because it rats nests and just grabs it and pulls it out of your hand because you weren't holding on to it. It just like I also think of like the same thing with the person asking about the micro guide. Like they're just like, I
Yep.
want something for like this person was asking for a rod that can also throw live bait, assuming maybe you're throwing like a bobber, and people might be just like,
Right.
go and get this rod because it's dope, and
Yeah.
you never took into consideration that has micro guides, and she might be fishing a slip bobber, and that just doesn't work
Right.
very well. She wants an all
Right.
around. Give her a good all around. That's
Right.
that's what we're here for. Try to be helpful. There's always these people that they're just like on that bandwagon. It's like
Right.
the same. It's like the kids in high school when you show up in your Mazda, and everybody's like, fucking Mazda, bro. Fords. I only drive Fords. Just like, what is your deal? Like, you got to be mad at me because I don't drive the
Because I
same make that you like?
right. Yep. And you're just like why? What? What is that? Why?
Right,
Go find the right thing that fits you
right.
and
Just,
do that. Like, what do you need? Go get it. You know what I mean? It's
yep,
just like, don't over don't overthink it too much. Just get what actually works.
yep.
I'm gonna let's switch it up a little bit, because this is completely related to the upcoming weekend here in Minnesota. We are launching the podcast on the Monday before what we here in Minnesota call fishing opener.
Yes.
And what is that? Just do a quick brief. What does that actually mean to us here in Minnesota, Tim?
Fishing opener means that you can now legally target bass, walleye, and northern pike, and you get to keep walleye and northern pike, and walleye being our state fish because it's fucking delicious. That's what everybody like. There's some people that just love fishing for the big fish, so you get to go and catch the northerns, and walleyes are fun to fish for and eat, and that's a lot of what some people, that's all they fish for is the walleyes. So now we get to fish for them. We haven't, like we talked about with the lures and the crankbaits, we can't legally target them. If you catch them on accident, that's a different story, but you can't legally target them until May 15th this year. The opener changes from year to year, but mostly, so, it's like I said, always on Mother's Day. So
it's almost always on Mother's Day. Yes, that is the old
Mother's Day weekend. Mother's Day is Sunday, opener's Saturday. So
yes, that's the old Minnesota like fisher thing. Anyways,
and moms fish free.
Oh shit! Do they really?
I think it's all ladies. Yeah, it might just be. I don't know if it's moms. I can't remember, but for sure, moms.
That's a weird thing to prove, though. Is like you have to be out there like with your baby. I'm a mom, I swear.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, on Mother's Day, you can take your mom fishing without a fishing license.
Oh, kick ass!
Yeah,
didn't know that. Hot tip.
So
that. It was the walleye that was leading into the next question, and of course we have two major cities that the river basically splits in half here. And that's why they're called the Twin Cities, because they just built up on either side of the river. So someone asked the question, would you eat walleye off the Mississippi near downtown Minneapolis? And so basically, again, rivers through two big cities. River through two big cities. And now remember, we're near the beginning. So this is the top of the river. It's going through two major cities. Would you eat it, Tim?
No. No. No, don't.
Before I even finished the question, you were just shaking your head.
I was shaking my head no the whole time.
No. I know the whole time I'm starting the question and you're just shaking your head.
Don't do it.
For the folks that are going to catch this on video.
Not unless you're
only on audio.
Right. Not unless you're super hard up and you're starving or whatever, then go ahead, take your chances. But because we talk about video games, it's like Fallout. Like you eat one of those fish, you're going to get some of that radiation poisoning. Like your health bar is going down, but don't eat the real big problem is the mercury contents. And I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you why, but the closer you are to the big cities like that, the higher the mercury content is. You got to get yourself like some good fresh water. Those fish you can find it in the regulations. It literally says like, do not eat more than like 3 fish in a month.
Yep.
It's like you're gonna get mercury poisoning.
They're basically saying you're ingesting a little bit more mercury than we would advise you to do. But no, you're 100% right. I've actually done a little bit of, because I love eating fish, so I've done a little bit of research on this mercury thing. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, since we made a reference to Sea Lab 2021 before on this show as well, there's even a episode on that where they reference it, and there's like this giant whale. One of the guys like got electrocuted or whatever, so it's like a weird dream sequence, and there's like this giant whale talking to another fish, and he's just like, did you know that the average fish has more mercury in it than an anal thermometer? And then the other fish is like, what? And he goes, would you eat an anal thermometer? And the other fish goes, no. And then he goes, I would, and eats the little fish.
Oh my god, that show was amazing.
Oh, good stuff.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, dude, you're right. It's near the cities, as near a bigger city. There's just more chemical runoff and all that shit like that, and so you do um, end up with basically contaminated waters. I'm not
Yeah.
saying there's anything wrong with fishing them. I'm not saying that like
No,
if
no.
you need it, go ahead and eat it. But I wouldn't
Yeah,
go there to go food fishing. No
right.
fucking way,
Yeah.
dude.
And
No.
like it says, you can get away with eating them, but they're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, don't eat too much of that.
Yeah.
Just giving
Yeah.
you a
For sure.
warning. And just like, I'm just like, we have access to so many different bodies of water here. I'm not
Yep.
going to the ones that are just like, you probably shouldn't eat many of these fish. And it's like, that to me is just like, then I should not eat any of those fish. So.
Right. Yes, exactly. And the thing is too is it works its way up the food chain. The mercury works its way up the food chain because the plankton will eat the mercury filled grass, and then
Hmm.
and then the sunfish eat the plankton, and then the walleye eat the sunfish. So
And then
that's
the big
how it
whale eats
works.
the anal thermometer.
And then exactly. Exactly. So do you want to give a little bit of a lure advice too to this next question for the walleye, or should we just move on and save that for a different time? Let me
What
know. Be honest.
what question are we
This is
talking about now?
what is your favorite go-to lure for spring
Oh,
walleye?
yeah,
Is the question.
my favorite go-to lure, and it, like I know, like people might be biased and just be like, yeah, that's not really a lure. Hey, this is my favorite way. So I like, and I'll give you a specific jig head. Hopefully that gets everybody. I love fishing a jig and a minnow. I can feel when the minnow is moving, and I can feel like there's something to it where I know that like the minnow's down there doing its thing, and it gives me more
Mm,
confidence
mm-hmm.
because I know that my bait's wiggling even when it's sitting still. So I'm just like, oh yeah, dude, I would eat it. They're gonna eat it. But I like a chartreuse color, which is like a bright green, um,
Green, yellow. Yep.
knuckleball jig head, and
Say that again.
knuckle
I heard what you said, but it's like, what was it?
knuckleball.
Okay, I didn't hear you
It
right the first time then.
oh
Knuckleball. Okay.
knuckleball. Yeah, knuckleball jig head, and it is made by FinTech, I believe is the company. And it's knuckleball Gin Tech, I almost said. We're getting into some weird like sounds like some sort of a martial arts.
Yeah.
The knuckleball Gin Tech technique. the but the yeah, FinTech I believe is what it's called, and it's a knuckleball jig, and eighth ounce
Oh,
knuckleball jig,
sure.
and then possibly 16th ounce
Okay.
in the early spring. Like if a cold front moves in and I want to fish real slow, I'll go 16th ounce.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my favorite. I just
All
love it.
right.
There's a lot more that you could use, but I'm just telling you my favorite. That's what I like.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we got a time restraint because we have, we're the hour-long podcast that goes an hour and 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
we got a list of questions here, Tim. Which one do you want to pick out before we wrap up our fishing topic before we get into Resident Evil? Because I got one, but that's because I'm biased towards catfish. Fucking love me some
Oh,
catfish.
yeah. I will. We can answer that question, and I'll say one other one. Real. Okay. So
You gonna do a lightning round of two
I'll
questions?
I'll give you two questions that are just real fast, and then you can ask that catfish one. So one of them said, just because these are fucking weird, does anyone have or does anyone leave hooks on their lures?
Oh yeah.
Not on their lures. I'm saying this wrong. Does anyone leave hooks or lures tied on to their bait casters, or do you cut them off and reel them up every time?
Yep.
Who told you this? Like, I don't.
Sounds like a lot of fucking work if you ask me.
I've never heard of this before. You should not cut off your stuff. That's crazy. If somebody out there has a good reason to cut them off and reel them up, let me know. But no way, dude. Never.
Sure.
That's
Mhm.
it's even how you hook up your stuff to make sure your line doesn't get all tangled and weird. Like,
Oh, yeah.
maybe if you don't,
Good point.
you don't want to bend the rod up when it normally bends the other way, but you don't have to tighten it that much. Just
Well, that's
hook
what I
up
was gonna
your
say.
yeah, just hook up your line and then just tighten it so there's no slack in your line, and and hook up your lure to whatever, and then that's it. You don't have to fuck with it. I think it's crazy. I've never heard of anything like that. So that one I say,
Yeah, it's weird.
no, don't cut it off. I don't know who told you that. They're bad friends. And the other one, where did I put my? I had other notes.
Okay, so
All right.
what was the one you were looking for again?
So the smelt one.
Ah, yes. Are the smelt running in Duluth yet? So I don't even know what that means.
And I
I know
don't
smelts
know.
of fish, but I don't know what
Yeah,
the fuck they're talking about.
yeah. So I'm sure that they like spawn or whatever. I don't know anything about smelt, but I wrote this down not only because of the question, but because of the answer somebody gave. It was one of my favorite things I've ever seen. It's such a weird Minnesotan answer. The guy says, "Are the smelt running in Duluth yet?" And the answer he gets is, "When the oak leaves are the size of squirrels' ears, is when the smelt are running."
The fuck does that mean?
Just,
I don't even know what that means.
but if he's right, and that's something you're wondering about, just remember that when the oak leaves are the size of squirrels' ears, that's when the smelt are running. Now you know, I'm bringing that knowledge. I don't even know what that means, but you have it. I have it.
Cool.
Now we know it's going to be a fun thing. Like, if anybody ever asks you that in the future, somebody just says, I just, like, I would love to do it, like, just in passing. You just walking past somebody talking to their friend, and they're just like, "Are the smelt running yet?" And you're just like, "Yeah, when the oak leaves are the size of squirrels' ears, that's when they're running." You just keep walking. No more,
Just,
no more
just like a
information on
casual
it.
passing in a
Yeah,
park.
yeah, because you can't. We don't have any information. None of us have any more information than that. We can't help them any further than that. Just like give them that information, a little nod of the cap, and keep walking.
Then you're just done.
Yes. When the oak leaves are the size of squirrels' ears, that's when they're running. Yep.
Later. Shit. All right, man. Well, obviously we have to do one of these again. There is also go to patreon.com/reelaftv, REELAFTV. There is a tier where me and Tim each month will do a Patreon exclusive YouTube show. And the Patrons get to write in with questions and answers, or with questions that they want us
yeah.
to answer.
You guys give us,
Or you can write in with questions and answers, and then
You
we'll
can
just
do
read that shit.
If you got questions and answers like the squirrel ears, oak leaf, I'm totally cool with that. I will read the question and the answers when they're that good. Yeah, we're doing it.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, this month we are going to keep it geeky in the second half, and we are going to talk video games every time. So we are going to cut off here with our fishing Q&A episode, and we are going to go in the second half. We're going to talk about our experiences and where Resident Evil's going now, because we're going to have opinions. We've been playing this shit since it came out on PS1, so
Oh my goodness.
we've been around the block.
Since the first one, dude. It's a dope game.
It's a dope game. All right. Hit it.